First of all, my name is Jeff Eden, and I'm chairman of SID, my sins. I'm not quite sure how I ended up with that particular role, title, or whatever, but here I am. Secondly, thanks for coming, because it would look awfully silly if there was just us here. Desperately dull. Presentation would last half the time, because we just say yes and agree. So thank you for coming to be convinced. It's much appreciated. If I can do a few very, very brief housekeeping things, which, according to health and safety, I am obliged to fulfill. If there is a loud noise, which is along the lines of a fire alarm, we all take either that door and go down to the football pitch. It's probably the only time I'll ever make a football pitch at my age, but there we are. So, not that I want it to happen, I have to say, but it is the only time I'll ever make it. So, if an alarm goes off, it's that door, straight down, in an orderly fashion. This isn't the Titanic, okay? There's no people playing on a violin and so on and so on. Secondly, if anybody requires the facilities, straight down that corridor. I believe the ladies are first and gentlemen are second. If anybody makes a mistake, it's not my fault. Do not blame me, do not bring the police. It's entirely down to you, you have to look at the signs, okay? Tonight, we're here to look and listen and evaluate a proposition that's been put by Tata. We all have an open mind about life. So we all have to have an open mind about any proposition, no matter how our immediate emotions feel. So tonight, we're going to look at that. We have, Brian Cartwright, who's Chairman of Chen, who's going to give an update as to the story so far, almost. We're very lucky, and I do say lucky, I don't necessarily say privileged, because he's not that kind of guy who likes that kind of language. But we've got Professor Paul Connett here, who is a leading expert on this area, who is a world-renowned expert on this area, whether he likes to hear it or not. We are privileged to have him here. It's a real stroke of luck on our part, and he will actually give you an insight into the real world of incineration and what it's actually going to do, or could do. I have to say could, otherwise I can be sued. And you know, I haven't paid the mortgage off. Cheltenham and Gloucester would object if the house was taken from me, so I have to say could. Okay? Unfortunately, Cheshire West and Chester, mustn't forget the and Chester bit, are unable to attend tonight. We did invite Mike Jones, who's leader of council, to attend. He unfortunately can't, he's in London, and unfortunately they don't have a substitute to send, despite having a number of elected representatives who could be, as in the portfolio for waste, perhaps Holder could have come, perhaps, or whatever. We also invited various officers from the council. Unfortunately, they are unable to attend as they feel it's inappropriate to attend, despite the fact that we have the world-leading expert here and they're the lead objector. So please remember that when you next vote. Not that I'm making a part of it in a broadcast, of course. What we need to look at tonight is what are we actually facing? It's been put to us that we have an energy from waste facility being produced. Is that what it is? I'll ask the questions when I want audience participation. Come on, I'll say, I'll wear a different hat or something, okay, Brendan? Is it? Well, okay. No, it probably isn't. It's probably a darn good waste stream for Tata. As anybody who's put any kind of spreadsheet together can work out with the income that's going to come, etc., etc. Frankly, that factory over there is immaterial. It's about how much money can I produce. But let's look at that completely material. We'll park that to one side. That's my emotion. It's your emotion. But what's the reality? That's what we're going to evaluate tonight. There will be a question and answer session at the end. So please don't all jump up and go, ah! And let the emotion go. It's about the reality. And when we come to questions, obviously, it's questions. It's not statements, it's questions. Right now, though, I'd like to hand you over to Brian, who is going to bring us up to date the story so far. Thank you for being so kind so far. Thank you.
I'm not going to speak with the microphone, so if anybody can't hear me, just shout out, and I'll pick the thing up. I don't really like microphones, so do shout As Jeff's introduced, I'm a member of CHAIN, and in fact CHAIN stands for Cheshire Anti-Incinerator Network, as most people I think know in here. And we belong to a group of people numbering some 25,000 in this mid-Cheshire area who passionately believe that incineration of waste is not the way forward over the next 20, 30 years. Having said that, I must thank Sid for asking us to this presentation tonight. I like to think of Sid as a kind of sister organisation because we have similar ideals, similar objectives. So, you know, for Sid read CHAIN, for CHAIN read Sid. So we're very, very pleased to be here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm not going to hog the stand because everybody's going to listen to Professor Connett, so in fact I'm only going to spend a few minutes just saying where we are. First of all, I've got 2 items against my name. Why are we here? First item. And secondly, the story so far. I think that's what the agenda says. Why are we here? Well, that can be stated quite clearly. We're here because we have a government who is insisting that we build waste treatment plants that produce so-called green energy at any cost. At any cost. 2 points. First of all, there are unacceptable costs in going for incinerators that burn all kinds of waste, and these aren't just financial, these are all kinds of costs. Secondly, there are better, far better alternatives, and I'm sure Professor Connett in fact will tell us about the realistic alternatives, realistic, this evening. Going back to the story so far, well, this is really quite straightforward. We are Cheshire, and east and west is now separate, but the whole of Cheshire produces less than 200,000 tonnes per annum of domestic or municipal waste. And this is reducing year on year. It's now down to below 200,000. The other type of waste, in fact, that is produced, of course, is industrial, or C&I, commercial and industrial. Now, actually, nobody knows quite what this figure is. You wouldn't believe it, but we don't know exactly how much C&I waste is produced. We don't know exactly how much of that is recycled and reused. But if we take a figure from 3 different sources, and we've been going through public inquiry, so this is fairly sound, the amount of C&I waste that would go to landfill is somewhere between 300 and 400,000 tonnes per annum. That's what's left over after we've reused and recycled. So all told, Cheshire produces round about 400 to 500,000 tonnes per annum, top side. Now already in this area, we have 1.95 million tonnes of waste treatment capacity, either in construction or for which planning permission has been obtained. Just very quickly, I'll just go through them. If you add up the figures of Ince, Innias, Viridor, Bedminster, and only in the last fortnight, another 200,000 in fact has been sanctioned at the Ince site to burn biomass. All that lot comes up to 1.95 million tonnes per year. So it's fairly clear that, you know, already we have something like 4 times the amount of waste treatment that we need for this area. In addition to that, we are currently involved with 2 public inquiries. First of all, there's a public inquiry for a plant in Northwich, which Covanta want to build, which is 380,000 tonnes per annum. We're 3/4 way through the public inquiry. That resumes in the first week of October. And secondly, very important, because that's what we're talking about tonight, Tata, E.ON, want to build a 600,000 tonnes per annum incinerator here in Northwich. And that public inquiry starts in this room in the second week in October, as most people know. So already we've got, in fact, another million tonnes per annum, in fact, in the pipeline. You know, the local situation is really becoming very serious and totally unacceptable. And it's unacceptable to the majority of people living in this part of Cheshire. If we're not to become the dumping ground, and I mean dumping ground, for waste for the whole of the UK, and where biomass is concerned, I think possibly, in fact, importing it from outside of the UK, because if it's going to come, in fact, from America, China, we just haven't got enough biomass to burn in the plants that are being put out. We, the people of this area, have to take a stand. There's no other word for it, because in fact, everybody, and I mean everybody, doesn't seem to want these plants, but we're still going through a system, in fact, because in fact it's the law in this country of public inquiry where, quite frankly, anything can happen. So that's the